Yep, cool. So we have nothing in our checklist rounds for the campaign's working groups. So we'll go directly into the metrics review. The first item on that is for candidates to mention any articles that they were in that occurred organically. So if anyone wants to go, I'll go popcorn style. If anyone wants to tell me if there were any particular articles about them, that'd be great. Personally, I had none. I don't think being a senator is as interesting as being a lower house seat person, because I did the same releases.
I can't think of any since our last meeting either.
Yep, cool. And Ben?
No.
Yep, cool. So there's my non-popcorn style, project leaders, the number of new members. So I presume most of you have seen that there is now something on the Flux app itself, well, the Flux website, where you can actually track how many new members we have had. And there we can do it by specific time frames, but maybe what So since we met last, we've had 324 new members. So I don't think we need to add anything else to that. Does everyone know how to find that if they're looking for it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. I can put it in the chat if you want it, but otherwise I'll leave it as is. So the next item on the campaign's working group is the number of polling booths covered. So I know that we had 70 odd volunteers, and I believe we probably had about 40 polling booths covered, because we had a couple of people on their own, but most people were in pairs. That's my understanding of how that went. So
yeah, I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head how many we had in Victoria. It was maybe 7 or 8, but I could email you that exact information later if you like.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And then the number of volunteers that have been activated. So is that the number of people helping out at polling stations or other tasks as well there, Dahi?
Yes, that was the intention.
Yeah, so polling booth volunteers around between 70 and 80, and other volunteers, I'd say another 15, most of whom were on these working group here, helping out with media, social media, those types of things. So that's probably the answer to that one. Dollar value of donations. Ben, do you know what that is?
Yeah, so approximately for the federal campaign, it would be around $8,000.
Yep, cool.
But I'll formalise that as like a post-election thing.
Yep, fantastic. And social media reach organic, I can't speak to that. I don't know if you can. Anyone else here can?
No.
No? Okay, so we'll leave that one for now. So the projects, the 10-day campaign, do you want me to just tick that off as it's finished?
Yeah, I'll tick it here. Yes, that is done. That's great news.
And candidates on the hustings for the pre-election, I believe you actually, that happened, yeah?
That's all. That's all done. Yeah, everything in here. Campaign, email, direct marketing is done.
Done. Yep.
Social media is done.
Campaign social media done. So done. So I guess the next thing to go into is to invite people, and Dahi, what am I saying, Dahi? Dustin, I know that you're on a phone. So is there any particular items you'd like to talk about tonight?
With regards to what?
Is there anything that you would like us to talk about tonight? Any
like triage items?
The main thing that I had been thinking about since election day was, I think we made a mistake with the way we were handing flyers out, that they didn't actually tell people exactly how to vote for us.
Yep. So I'll just list that as how to vote cards, and we can have a bit more discussion about that as we go.
Yep. That's it.
Any other items that you would like to talk about? If you've got access to Glassroll, put it in. At the moment, we've got a couple.
I was just going to say one other thing I just thought of is just how we continue to keep some new volunteers engaged. I know there's just been a couple that have sent me text messages since the election that are saying, what can I do? I know election's over, but what else can I do? So yeah, it's probably need to discuss that as well. Who's going to look after that?
Yep. Cool. So at the moment, the first thing that we've got, so unless there's anything else people want to add, I'll just start at the top of the triage items and work through them in order. So the first item on that is candidates recs, and Dahi, your name's against that.
Yeah, candidate receipts.
Candidate receipts.
This is a request for what I need is like for Ben Rushton, I think, to issue receipts to the relevant candidates for. So if candidates want to avail of a tax receipt, just for Ben to issue them to candidates, just a process to kick that off.
Yeah. So Dahi, I will contact each candidate one by one with an email to gather their the receipts of what they've spent, and then I'll issue them back a Flux receipt.
Yeah.
I emailed a receipt for the deposits from both myself and Seb to Max yesterday because I didn't know who I was supposed to send them to, and then he forwarded them to donations at Flux or something like that. So does that go to you, Ben?
Yeah, I'll be on copy of that. Yep,
Okay, cool. Yep.
I'll get onto that.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks, Dustin.
No worries.
Cool. Thanks. I got what I need. What I needed.
Fantastic. Oh, I didn't even have to ask you if you got what you needed. Okay, so the next one is gather feedback process. Dahi, what do you need?
Yes. So what we need is a process to gather, I suppose, the feedback from everyone from the campaign, and I suppose I'll propose putting out a simple form so that people can just download whatever information they want to feed back about the campaign into, so that it's captured. And then I'd also encourage, if local teams want to organize a meeting locally to discuss that sort of stuff, that we do that. But that essentially we have a process that does all of the information gathering offline, so that if we do bring people together for a meeting to discuss things about the campaign, that we're discussing it starting at the point where everyone has seen all of the feedback. I think that spending time listing all of those things is an unproductive use of bringing everyone together. But once we have listed all of those things and everyone has it, that's when we can have a useful discussion about how we ensure that the lessons are learned for next time.
Yep. So you're just going to do that as a Google survey, Dahi, just for clarification?
Yeah.
Yep. And do you need any help with that, Dahi, or is there anything that you're looking for other than to inform us?
Joanne, I'll get you to just cast your eyes over it and ensure that it's gathering the information that it is that we need. And then also for everyone to ensure that I'll forward it to everyone in our team, we'll say, at the organization, but just to ensure that if you had any volunteers or other people who aren't in that list, that they get this form sent to them so they can give us any of their feedback as well.
Yep, fantastic. Okay. So at this point, I guess if you're happy to document it as that you're going to get it out for feedback from us. Did you get what you needed?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Fantastic. So then the next question, I think we've had a couple of different ways it's come from myself, saying, what are we planning to do next after the election? And I guess we've already answered that by saying we're doing feedback. And then developing a plan based on that.
Yeah.
So it may be that I don't need to cover that item.
And New South Wales branch is due to meet tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And I'm anticipating off the back of that we can plan some social events.
Yep. Cool. Okay, so that's probably all I need from that, because I think the next steps have already been marked out. So I'll just tick it off with nothing else further. How to vote cards. Dustin, you mentioned this briefly before. Just I'll double check with you. What you were saying is the volunteers wanted specific how to vote cards that showed people exactly where on the ballot paper to vote. Is that what you were?
So it wasn't so much volunteers as I noticed myself that a lot of people I was handing them out to, I'd tell them about Flux and they'd say, oh, that sounds awesome. I'd like to vote for you. How do I vote you? And I'd say, oh, we're column S on the centre paper. But a lot of people sort of said, well, why isn't it written on here? How am I supposed to remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we should have just had that. So yeah, they would have been, you know, specifically done for each state. But I think that we possibly would have lost votes because we just make it as easy as possible for some people.
Yep. And I, like, anecdotally as well, I know people told me that they went to vote for Flux, but because they knew about it from the state election. But obviously we'd changed our name to Vote Flux. They couldn't see Flux easily on the system, so they assumed I wasn't running and they didn't vote for me.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we just, make it as easy as possible. Even if they can't say your name, we need to be able to tell them exactly how to do it,
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think that will probably be one of the things that comes in the feedback process. Is there anything else that you need other than to mention that at this point?
No, that was it. Just to, highlight. So something we consider in the future.
Yep. So did you get what you need out of that discussion, or is there something else you need?
No, that's it.
Fantastic. Okay. I'll go into the next item then, the financial disclosures by Dahi.
Yes. What I need there is, Ben, I suppose I need you to communicate to all of the candidates what it is, like what our plan is for ensuring that we do the financial disclosures, inside the next few months. I know that there's a little bit of I won't say irregularity, there's a little bit of variance between some candidates have appointed party agent and some candidates haven't, and we just need to put together a bit of a plan around ensuring that everyone gets the appropriate forms filled in.
Yep. I think the only candidate that by default hasn't appointed the Flux party agent as their candidate agent, it would be Curtis.
Yeah, I would double check that. We can discuss that offline, but I don't think that's the case from my discussion with the AEC. We submitted candidate papers for our upper house people where like they are essentially their own aid, like they are responsible for their own disclosure.
Okay. Maybe we can chat about that at the tail end of this.
Cool.
Thanks. So
did you get what you needed out of that, Dahi?
Yeah, that'll be sorted offline. That's all good.
Yep, fantastic. So, Ben, I've got you next listed as sending email campaign team regarding receipts.
Yeah, it's kind of touched on a couple of the triaged items today, but I will, formalize an email communication to everybody about what to send me and what's happening there. So that's more I was more making that announcement in this meeting than requiring anything of anybody right now.
Yep, fantastic. So you don't need anything documented against it really, or it's already documented?
No, it would be a task for me to follow up.
Cool. So did you get what you need out of that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so maintaining engagement for the volunteers. My name's against this, but you mentioned it to start with, Dustin. I think Dustin's disappeared offline. I might go the next item and come back, yeah? Given that he might just have his daughter in the car. Okay, so the next item is my item. What I need out of this for the next elections is I would really love to see a list somewhere. I believe I have some, but potentially we could make it a bit tidier where we list all of the different elections that are coming up, local and state government across New South Wales. I'm happy to do that task if you don't want to, Dahi, but something that can be distributed across to the states so that we can actually have a picture as a whole of an organisation about where each state might be going next and how long they might have to get there.
Yeah. I think we have that on. We actually have that on the website somewhere. But yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. Just like having that clearly communicated for everyone across the party, so that we know.
So there's an election calendar listed underneath that.
Yes, the election calendar. Yeah, but filling out because
Yeah, okay.
Have you got that? I'll pop it in.
Yeah, cool. So it looks like we almost have it already. So maybe my task then would be to review that and to maybe get that out in a newsletter to say to people where next for Flux, and then a little article that says, well, we're going to be dispersing and focusing more on what happens in each state, although there will be support, from the campaigns working group and the engagement working group, those types of things.
Yeah.
Finance working group at a federal level. But these are the dates. So have a look, see when your state is coming up next.
Yeah.
Some of them don't look very tidy. I wonder if there's a chance of making it look prettier.
Yeah. I think that's a good call. We'll take that as the action. We'll just go so elections webpage to be.
Yep. I might need your help because I'm not very good at it. I've never really done website updates. I've just kept my nose out of it.
If we'll figure out what it is you want, like what it is we want, changes we want,
Yep.
and then I can do the markup changes to be.
Yep, cool.
Cool. I'll just.
So does this include looking at state elections that are coming up that we may not be set up in yet to try and get organised in time for them, or are we not?
Yeah, so this web page, which you'll see when you see the recording, also hopefully we'll send it out, has a list of each state, whether or not it's a local government or a state government election that's coming up next, the date that election is coming up so that state groups can start planning for their own elections.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
okay. So, and does this include though states that we don't have a state group in set up in? Are we trying to set up any others, or are we just trying to sort of build on what we've already established in the larger states now?
I think it includes the states that we aren't already set up in, because other than Northern Territory, where potentially we have some links to, we have at least 2 people in every state who are prepared to work on getting their state up.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know we had South Australia and Tasmania had people there as well, so that's good. Cool.
Yeah, so the engagement working group's got members in South Australia and Tasmania connected.
Okay. Yeah, well, they've both just had elections anyway, haven't they? So, yeah, but no, that is good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I need. I think I've gotten what I need out of that item. Thank you, Dahi, for documenting it. And then the last one was quantity of unused HTV cards. Ben.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to know how many of our flyers weren't distributed on the day by volunteer.
Yep.
I know that's no easy task, or even by state, say.
That's a fairly easy task to figure out. We should know how many flyers we have left over.
Easy to do, but don't you think hard for people to actually commit to doing it?
Look, I'm happy to commit to this item. So if we say, Joanne, to ring around each person who handed it out and ask them how many flyers they have left, and if they can get back to me, that would be great.
Yeah.
So that's good because it's just raised another tension for me. So Dustin, I know you're back online and we've missed an item about maintaining engagement for volunteers. If you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out who's actually going to, or what we would do to make sure we don't lose people between now. There's a sort of a time. Say, people in Victoria, there's a long time before our next election. So I just want to make sure we, particularly new members that have joined and are really keen, that we've sort of keep them involved and that type of thing. So I don't know whether it's something for newsletters or engagement or how. Depends. I'm just not sure what we would actually get people to do during times that are a long way from an election.
So
I guess. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No. Please keep going. I interrupted.
Yeah, I guess it's more just a question. It's partly because I'm not really sure myself how much each state's steerco actually does during times when we're nowhere near an election in each state or a federal election. So I guess we need to answer the question of how much work is there that we'll actually be doing during that time, and how can we keep new members engaged in that way. And also, I noticed with the email notifications that we're getting with new members, there's been quite a few that have got comments in there that are saying, I'd love to help with, producing content for social media or explaining how IBDD works or something like that. But a lot of them, nobody has ever actually contacted them yet. So I'm just sort of curious to all these people that have just joined now around the election that are really keen, how we go about making sure we sort of translate that into something useful to us.
Yep. So if it's okay, I can give a very brief answer to that now, but maybe if I allocate a task to this, Dustin. So at the steering committee, I've been asked to finalise some guidelines on how we're going to be engaging members and particularly volunteers throughout the organisation. So there's a document that outlines what we're doing and how we're doing that, which is semi-presented. But if perhaps I give myself a deadline of having a specific webinar like this run within the next month, where I outline that plan in more detail. And then people can look at it and workshop it, and then maybe a second plan where people can give feedback. How does that sound as an action out of that? Would that meet your needs?
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, the thing that made me think of this is since Saturday, I've had a couple of our new volunteers. One of them only joined last Wednesday, and he came and volunteered for us on Saturday. And so there's been two of them that have sent me 2 or 3 text messages each saying, I know the election's over, but what can I do? I still want to help. So I just haven't really known what to tell them. So that sounds great. Yeah,
no, that sounds fantastic. So literally I won't be around, so I might set a date tonight, but it won't be for a couple of weeks that I do that presentation. But in the meantime, I'd just keep in touch with those guys. The new volunteers that come through in Victoria, technically Reese is contacting them as he goes.
Okay. Yep.
But he has to work through that list because there was obviously a big rush at once.
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
And there is a video where Reese talks Dahi through how he actually contacts a volunteer and what he does with them in that process.
Okay. Yep.
Which I can send you the link to if that helps.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. It's an hour long, sorry about that.
Yeah, right over.
You can blame Reese.
Yeah, don't worry, I will.
Did you get what you need out of that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So the last item on the list at the moment is one of mine, which is thanks to the volunteers. I noticed that we had a discussion at Steerco where we're going to thank candidates, but I also wanted to have something where we thank volunteers. And I don't know if there's something in train or not. If there is, I'll butt out. If there isn't, I'd like to see something organised.
Yeah, no, Joanne, I think that's for you now you can take the volunteer side of it. Perfect.
I'm more than happy to do that. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't stepping on toes.
No.
Well, I'm going to draft some certificates and then send them Nathan's way and get him to post them out with his signature on it, because I think it's good to come from the leader of the party.
Great.
Unless you want to be a celebrity, Ben, and sign it as the main candidate and Dustin.
No, I think as long as something gets sent out in appreciation, and that's fine. Whoever does it, and if that should be me, I'm happy to be that person. But I'll take your guidance, Joe.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Thank you. Okay. So, and from that, there's a second action, I guess, Dustin, that I might need to double check with you, because perhaps I've got the list of who handed it out in Victoria wrong, because I thought there was more than 8 sites.
Could you say it again? Sorry, I didn't hear.
I'll just contact you, Dustin, in order to make sure I've got the list for Victoria right for that.
Yes. Yeah, because there is one guy that volunteers for us that's not even on HubSpot at all. So yes, I'll send you the
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now at the going once, going twice. If anyone wants to add an item to the agenda for this meeting. Any takers? Okay, there's no takers for that. So I'll go into the closing round. And in the closing round, really all I'm saying is, how did you go with the meeting? Is there, how did you experience it? And any other questions you have before we finish? Let's start at the beginning.
Actually, I've got something to ask.
Yeah, go, Sam. Hey.
The fund, you may have already talked about this, the fundraiser money. What's happening with that?
Yep. So Seb, I'm going to contact every candidate to follow up on all of those aspects. So any money that you've spent on the campaign.
Okay.
Yep.
Dahi, you and me raise
Easy one.
fundraiser at the same time. Okay. Is there any other questions you wanted to add, Seb, given that I know that we started without you? And
No, my other question was just about what to do with volunteers, but you've kind of already covered that. So
yeah, cool. So I guess then the next thing really is the closing round. So in the closing round, I'll start with Dahi again. Dahi, anything you would like to say for a closing round?
No, all good. Good meeting. Sad that this is, I suppose, our last high action campaigns working group meeting for a while. We'll probably move to a more spread out cadence from now on. But it's been good the last few weeks, this intensity with everyone. But feeling good. Glad we're looking on to the next steps now.
Yep, cool. And the next person on the list that I have is Dustin. Dustin, any closing comments? You're on mute, by the way. Okay. Ben, I'll go. Or Dustin, go.
Yeah, no, it's really nothing more to say from me. It's just a difficult way of your meeting, so
Yeah.
hopefully I can be organised next time.
Yeah, no trouble. We get you have a family. That's important.
Yeah.
Ben, any last comments?
You know, it was a good meeting. I really have nothing to add to the closing rounds, but thanks everybody for joining the meeting.
Yeah, fantastic. Seb, anything you would like to say for the closing round?
no, that's all good from me.
Yep, welcome and sorry we missed you. And I guess for me from the closing round, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming. I know that after election there's a little bit of and I also wanted to say something that maybe hasn't been said, which is that Ben did a fantastic job in New South Wales. I got to see that close up and I was really impressed. So that's my closing comment on the federal campaign. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess unless anyone else has anything else they want to do, I'm happy to stay on the call for a little while if anyone else wants me to.
I'm going to stay on as well because I'm going to post this video and I'm just going to show a slide as well just about the current status of the results.
Yeah, cool.
Be interested in seeing.
So you happy for me to hit close meeting in Glassrock?
Yes, yeah, all good.
Okay, all the notes are in there.
I'll see it. I'm going to go anyway.
Okay,
Okay,
see you.
adios.
Adios.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah, I've just tried to map out all of our election results by all of the different districts to see how we are comparing over time and the difference between different elections in different areas. And essentially, like the only trend that we can reasonably identify is the smaller the electorate or the smaller the region that we campaign in, the higher our overall percentage, the higher our first preference vote will be. And essentially what this just indicates is that anywhere we run tight campaigns, we can perform as we should perform, in that around that 1% mark. But when we start trying to compete in large state electorates and federal elections on a state level, we see our percentage of first preference drop right off. We lose out in the dilution of big states. And I guess over time, I don't want to read too much just into one chart, but what it does say to me is that if there was anywhere for us to grow our first preference percentage vote and a sort of campaign for us to look at, it would be very small campaigns, i.e. local government elections, which is where we should probably experience the largest amount of first preference allocation. But we can just see over on the right-hand side, on a federal level, like it's like once you get into those big states of Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, and taking the federal as an overall, our numbers just get diluted right down.
Whereas, for example, in Dubbo, that's the one that stands out for me because I'm in New South Wales and I'm in Dubbo seat, but it's getting up there because I got more coverage.
Exactly, like it's much easier for us to, to meet that smaller amount of eyeballs. There's coverage that, that permeates into that electoral district. Like, we've gotten coverage in all of those smaller districts, Willoughby, Dubbo, Perth, and then once you move into that group in the centre, which are WA state electorates, the amount of coverage and awareness just seems to dropped right off.
Yep.
But that was
Cool.
But that will continue to be updated